If it's handy. If it's not, don't worry about it. Yeah, thanks. At your convenience, whenever you want. Buenas tardes, ladies and gentlemen. Soy yo, tu conservative New Yorker, Peter Vasquez, aquí in the WYSL studios, como siempre, but not. Yep, I'm in that private remote location. Just remember, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, ooh, I'm secret. Actually, if you're watching on social media, you may not hear the commercials or callers if we get them because I'm kind of haven't figured out how to patch that in just yet when I'm not in studio. But check us out anyways, and you can join the conversation. And of course, as always, you can leave us a comment. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Today, well, today's Tuesday, and I know I've kind of shifted a little bit because I got kind of some things going on that sometimes I got to shift. But Tuesday is our day, just like Thursdays, right? This is the day. I think I had asked for some names in the past, right? I think we came up with like Chatting Tuesday or Interrogative Tuesday. But check it out though, 346-3000, or check us out on Facebook, YouTube, um, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those. Leave comments, engage with us, right? Because you've heard me say it a million times, right? It's all about dialogue, dialogue, and a lot of dialogue, right? I love talking. And listen, I surely have a lot to say. So if you want to sit back and listen, I get that too. But these are learning opportunities. I call them teachable moments. So many people have microphones, and I'll tell you, not many of them. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm better than any other person out there with a microphone, be it an elected official or radio or TV or whatever the case. I'm simply just saying there's a lot of people out there with a microphone, whether it's actual microphone like I have or a perceived microphone like an election or like an elected official with influence, right? Those kind of things. It is an obligation for those that have those microphones to do right, to inform, to take up teachable moments. You know what? Nobody cares about your bio. I mean, I guess, every once in a while you want to toot your own horn like, hey, soy the conservative New Yorker, see, soy Joe, but really. So 346-3000. But leave us a chat on social media. We'll address him. We'll put him out. And well, hey, let's talk about some of the what are those things called? Well, yeah, the national observances that we have here in good old Rochester, New York. So this one I find pretty cool because a long time ago I had a friend. I mean, we're still kind of friends, who's a left-hander, and I don't know many, maybe one or two of them. And this guy, I'm telling you, he was like a genius, right? Like a genius. And I, some people tell me, yeah, left-handed people, they're geniuses, and I'm like, okay, super cool. So today, ladies and gentlemen, it is International Left-Handers Day, right? A day to celebrate the uniqueness and differences of the left hand population. Hey, 346-3000. Do me a favor, right? Because I've always wondered that. I have to admit, I didn't go and do a whole study on whether left-handers are smarter than right-handers. I mean, I'm a right-hander, and yeah, I'll toot my own horn. I think I'm pretty bright here. Um, but give us a call because I want to hear from you. Tell me, is it really a difference, right? Are there differences in the way you do things other than writing with your right hand? And are there any sugar? I mean, what are the barriers? I'd love to know that, right? And I'll tell you, these national days, they I mean, like today there's three other ones that I'm going to share with you, right? Not because I'm trying to fill in time, maybe, but these are cultural things that I believe are kind of cool. And in this country we should absolutely be doing everything that we can to celebrate each other's culture, right? We are Americans, we fly the American flag, right? But within the American culture, we also have the opportunity to learn and enjoy many of the rich cultures throughout this world as we come together. So check it out. Today is National Prosecco Day, a day dedicated to the popular sparkling wine in Italy. Now, listen, I like wine at the end of the day because wine tends to make me a little tired. But the Italian culture, very much like the Hispanic culture, right? Just rich and vibrant stories and really a lot of different cultures. But I'll tell you, when I was in Italy, I was stationed in the military. I was stationed in Germany. So, I got to travel. I worked for a general, so I went to a bunch of different places, and I truly, truly, truly enjoyed Italy. Just everything from Venice to the historical significance that we have in Rome. I mean, to think that once upon a time, people there were drinking prosecco that day, right? While watching lions eat their citizens. I mean, hey, is that not history? Um, Tish Habav Day. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It is a significant day of mourning on the Jewish calendar, right? Commemorating the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem. And listen, right? Whether you like it or not, listen, I stand with Israel, and it's days like this that I definitely want to highlight. But and I know that here steaks aren't like specific to the United States, I guess. But today is National Filet Mignon Day, right? So for your food enthusiasts, or you guys like me who love that red meat, which I really need to eat a lot less of, enjoy a filet mignon today. Me personally, I like that stuff not so red. I used to, but I surely can't do it. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, 346-3000. I'd love to hear from you today. Again, if you're a left-hander, let me know, right? If you're Jewish and you want to talk about the significance of today and share some of that information with our listeners, again, this is about dialogue. 346-3000, or leave us a message on one of the social medias and we'll put that out there. So, man, politicians, and this is the thing. I'm gonna pick on the mayor of the city of Rochester a little bit today, because whenever I hear an elected official say something like, where we're going to extend a state of emergency, which I have the authority to do, and it's because it's going to give me all the authority that I need to do things like impose curfews, like impose whatever it is that needs to be done in order to address the issue that this state of emergency is supposed to address, right? I mean, in the masses nationwide. Remember back in, what was it, 2020, 2021, and we still see remnants of around of that today, where the state governor and the president and others, they because there was there was a declaration of a state of emergency giving these people a lot of power, and we saw what happened. I mean, listen, people died, whether you want to acknowledge it or whether you want to blame it on COVID or whatever, but people died. And unfortunately, people died a lot more because of policy than they did because of COVID. But that's another show. So my thing is this, right? The mayor of Rochester is extending this gun violence state of emergency for another 30 days, even though he says, yes, crime has come down significantly. I mean, look at this, right? As of August 9th of 2024, there has been 125 shooting victims in the city, right? In 2023, there were 289. In 2022, there were 200 or 339 shooting victims. So the numbers are coming down. But he says, listen, I don't like, right, what I'm seeing. There are still unacceptable levels of he says gun violence, but again, I think it's not hard to say that it's not really gun violence. It is gun related violence. It is an individual that has been impacted by the culture of our society that made the conscious choice to pick up a weapon, to pick up a gun and point it at somebody. Okay? This isn't a gun issue, blah blah. I know people are like blah blah. I don't want to hear it. I'm sure some on the left are saying, "Oh, here we go again." But the fact of the matter is this, right? And never, right? When I was in the military, I pointed my gun down range. I knew exactly where that bullet was going to go. It wasn't driven by my gun. It was driven by training. It was driven by the need to use a force when necessary, right? But but right now, because of the politics, right, we are still seeing numbers, right? Again, as of August 9th, 28 city homicides, being people actually killed by a gun. Reduced from the 58 homicides in 2023. And that was a reduction from the 76 homicides in 2022. And I agree with the mayor. It is unacceptable levels of violence, right? But I mean, 3 teens were killed yesterday. What do we got? A 19-year-old woman that was confirmed that she passed away today. Our hearts and prayers are with that family. But a 15 and 16-year-old still in the hospital. I mean, what we saw happen just a couple weekends ago at a park, right? And what gets me is this: the only thing that gets touted, oh well, we need more security. Now, mind you, these are the same groups of people that not that long ago, actually during that very time frame, or at least right before it, definitely 2020, 2021, all that group of people, and check it out. Even if you didn't agree with them, but if you're supporting their stance on these policies, you absolutely agree with them. We're calling for defunding the police. Let's not forget that the executive, the clerk, the assembly members, the Senate, all on the left, every single one of them. You know, there's pictures out there with Morelli and Bellows sitting with their legs crossed, right? Like defund the police, but yet they're going to sit here and let's not forget. Anyways, and now we're talking about right extending by 30 days, right? So a whole nother 30 days of government saying I can lock you down if I want to, if I deem that necessary. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to acknowledge that it's my policies that have led to the crime that we're seeing. You are listening to your conservative Nuyorican right here on the WYSL stations. No te vayas. We'll be right back. All right, super. Thank you. Hey, all right, but you could only hear me, right? Like right now, they can't hear the commercials. They could only hear me. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook and social media, you know, I haven't really done it this way in a while because I normally have it feeding through. You know, I'm normally at the station except for Tuesdays and Thursdays most of the time. But listen, you heard me, right? You hear what I'm saying. And I hope this message gets out on social media loud and clear. Why? Well, because we've got to stop looking at things that that just make no sense, right? The very people through their policies that created these issues, we can't let that just be ignored. And listen, I'm going to be right back, okay? Can you hear me? Welcome back to the Next Step Show, ladies and gentlemen. 346 3000. You know, like I was saying before break, you know, it is an issue of culture. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in the city of Rochester. I mean, it wasn't until when I came back from the military, I moved into the house that I grew up in. And then it didn't take a year, maybe two, that I was like, man, I can't raise my kids here. This is not a safe environment. And the house that I grew up in was, well, I mean, I guess because I grew up all over the city. But the house that I moved back in when I was a single dad was right there on Norton Street. If you remember where JV Fishing Tackle was, or the old Red Wing Stadium. And listen again, I was excited. I'm like, wow, my kids are going to go probably to number 22 school, but man, when I started walking around, I was like, okay, we can't do this. And listen, you can sit here and try to bash me and say, oh, you're beating up the city. No, ladies and gentlemen, that's not the point. To ignore the change that's happened simply in the last, what, 20 years, 23 years or so. That's how long I've been back since the military, and I was gone for a while. And in just the short time that I was gone, we went from what I saw growing up, which was small businesses, thriving communities, mom and pop restaurants, all up and down Clinton Avenue. Listen, you wanted an arcapuria or pasteles during the holiday season. Parrandeando was happening, right? Parrandeando. That's in what is that in English? That's when you go door to door singing Christmas music, the jingles, I forget exactly how it's called in English. Yeah, caroling, that's what it was. Thanks, Bob. So parrandeando is the same, a little bit more flavor though, because we're talking instruments, and that all that stuff used to happen. Right, Easter Sunday, we'd stop at Andy's Candies for our candy. We'd stop at the bakeries for the fresh baked bread with that Spanish flavor. You know what? We didn't sit there talking about, oh man, we need more police. Listen, let's not forget, right? The Puerto Rican parade has been around as long as I've been around. My family built floats. My sisters were, or at least one of them, I'm not sure if both, were queens in that parade, right? We participated. The festival was in Browns Race Park over on the west side of the city in the Lyle Avenue area there, right? Beautiful local restaurants were there. And I mean, what changed? How is it that we can tout a festival saying, oh man, best attended, best ever, and we had to double, triple our security? Is that really community? Is that really advocacy? Is that really being a role model? Is that really addressing the issues that is plaguing the root issues, the core issues, right? Like, for example, this whole soft on crime stance that these legislators are pushing to include Carr Hasty and oh, I almost forget her name, and the leader in the Senate who insists that that they don't need to change bail reform, right? That focusing on reducing mass incarceration. Now, I'm not all for locking people up, especially if we're going to lock them up for the purpose of locking up. But darn it, where's the accountability? I shared these numbers yesterday, right? What is it? 46% of Democrats, right? They believe in selecting reducing crime through tough laws, right? Versus focused on reducing mass incarceration. I'll tell you what, right? How about advocacy, so that instead of pushing, what was it, 28 a million or billion, whatever that was, $28 million to asylum seekers, to the illegal immigrants, forgetting about the veterans, right? How about maybe some of that could have been shifted also to, you know what? To dealing with those that are mass incarcerated and maybe teaching them a thing or two, right? Because check it out. If going home is going to cause you or cause that individual to be right back in the nonsense, why are we letting him out? Maybe mental health impatient type is I don't know. And I'll tell you what, this whole more government control hasn't worked, isn't working, and there is no advocacy. This is the advocacy that we see though, right? With people with ideologies, right, that are just simply focused on race versus colorblind. Remember another stat I shared with you yesterday, right? Democrats at 36%, blacks at 37%, Hispanics at 35% are largely opposed to statements like we should focus on creating race conscious society to repair harms of the past, right? They're opposed those statements. DEI, they're opposed those statements. Why? Because it's destructive, right? It leads to elected officials like what we see happening in the city with the mayor, increasing government control. That's all that does. The community schools, that's a whole nother show, right? But these the Democrats, Black Latino, in large numbers, like I said yesterday, they believe in this statement: we should focus on creating a colorblind society where everyone is treated equally, regardless of the color of their skin. Now, check this out. I can tell you this, and again, I've been doing housing for some time, and the color of one's skin does play a significant role in the grant process. And again, in a discussion for another day, but it does, right? And that's sad because when you look at organizations, or excuse me, when you look at counties like Yates County or Steuben County, or even Genesee or Orleans County, where the numbers just don't seem to align with this narrative of race versus colorblind, we end up seeing a lack of resources going to places where they should be. Ladies and gentlemen, 346 3000, 346 3000. I want to hear from you, right? Now, look, we talk a lot about advocacy, and I've said this, before as well. The advocacy is everybody's business, right? But especially those that said, I want you to elect me to represent you, right? Because in a representative republic, an elected official is not bounded by this political ideology, because their job, their role is to advocate, to represent the will and the needs of the people at every level, even if it hurts. And it's crazy because in housing, I'll see legislators, or I'll see organizations say things like, "Well, we can't offend those in power, or we can't, really align with the Republicans because they don't have any power, and if we get too close, we're going to get in trouble." I'm like, but wait a minute. We agreed that these set of oh, what are they called? That these set of bills that's being proposed by the Republican are perfect, but yet you can't support it because you're afraid of offending the right. Dave from Churchville, thank you for calling. Thank you for your service. Wow. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, Dave, can you hang in the line for about for about 4 or 5 minutes? All right, I'm going to bring you back right after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, soy yo to conservative New Rican. Listen, no cambie ese dial because we'll be right back aquí on the WYSL stations. Hey, for those of you on social media, thank you for watching. Listen, leave your comments. I do suggest that you do leave comments, but listen, 92.1, 95.5 FM, 1040, you could hear on the radio. I promise I will have this technical issue fixed in the near future so that you can participate and hear. So our caller from Church Bell, he was questioning the state's inability to really deal with veterans, yet another service, another need. And we're going to pick that up again after the break, all right? It's in regards to the many politically motivated marijuana licenses that are being given out right now, while yet not approving medical marijuana for pain management for our veterans. I'll be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Next Step Show. Aquí to Conservative New York. And I hope you liked that little extended intro and took those 10 seconds to kind of let that music, let that stress melt, just melt away from you on this Tuesday morning. Dave, are you with us? Wonderful, Dave. I wanted to ask you, and thank you so much for waiting. Um, Medical marijuana, I appreciate that. Medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Now I understand that. What's the difference? I mean, why wouldn't vets? Why shouldn't they just go? What's the difference there? Right. Hmm. Right. Right. And I'm assuming that they're. Yeah, I was going to say, and now tell me something. When a veteran is given a prescription for marijuana, for medical marijuana, is the what is that? You just mentioned it. The level of THC, is that regulated, like the amount, so that it's for pain medication, and yet they can still function, or they just get high and pain free? Absolutely. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Dave, I really appreciate the call. Ladies and gentlemen, Listen, whether you agree with marijuana, with pot or not, you know where I stand. I've talked about it. I mean, Cooney the Hut holding his bag up at a dispensary, talking about "woohoo! I bought some get high stuff here," is a lot different than an individual that's in pain that's going to go through chemotherapy. And I know all this to be true, right? I strongly urge everybody, right, to call your legislator and be like, stop the political nonsense, stop this ideology nonsense. We have veterans that are in pain. Listen, it kills me every time that I hear someone say something like, well, and okay, I'll be more specific. I'm talking about the elected officials that are in office now. Oh, we just love veterans and we do all these things for veterans. And I'm like, okay, but these stories aren't one or two. These are constant. And it's just like Malcolm X said, a bunch of political trickery, right? Because check it out. And I'm going to get to this whole thing on advocacy, right? Because guess what? Advocacy is something that all these fools in office are saying that they do, but they don't do. And the thing is this, right? If we're going to look at it from a political perspective, the state is, the Democrats have a majority control. They literally, lobbyists should be out of business, to be honest with you, unless they're coming from the right side, right? All other lobbyists should go home because when one party controls everything and has for as long as this party has, housing shouldn't be a problem, right? We shouldn't have issues where we're held up on licenses for very important things like medical marijuana. Check out the definition of advocacy, right? According to Merriam-Webster dictionary, which I think is pretty reputable. The act or process of supporting a cause or proposal, the act or process of advocating for something. Oxford English Dictionary, public support or recommendation of a particular cause or policy. So listen, I'm going to ask you a question, right? If both of these definitions emphasize the aspect of supporting or promoting a cause or proposal, then riddle me this. Why would a sitting elected official with the ability to influence others for the right for what is it, for the better, why would they say a statement like this? Bob, do you mind that first cut? Hey, play that one more time. Hey, you know what, Bob? Go on with cut two, because I think we're going to talk about both of these things at the same time. Advocacy. I'm sorry, Bob. Can you do club cut one again? Now, ladies and gentlemen, listen again. Let me tell you again what advocacy is according to the textbook definition. Right? It's the act of supporting, defending, or promoting a cause, policy, or group of people. It involves efforts of influencing public policy. Listen, if you're advocating and you're walking away kumbaya and happy, and everybody's clapping hands, guess what? You didn't advocate. And again, see, I've said a million times. Every single one of these elected officials will tell you, well, mandate this and mandates that. Okay, but you don't work for the state. They're not your boss. Now, granted, ladies and that's and that there you go. See, that's what happens, right? When you say you advocate, but you don't. Because again, right now, and I know in the clerk's office, and I'm going to pick on there. Well, I'm running for clerk, and it's for these very reasons, right? Because I believe in advocacy. You've heard me say a million times, Republicans don't like me as much as Democrats don't like me. Why? Well, because I do believe in advocacy, because I will hold and call somebody out on the carpet. See, advocacy, what is it? It's public speaking. So tell me something. When was the last time, right? Aside from an election cycle, and if you don't believe me, you know what? Just you can even look at Facebook posts. You can even look at press releases. Where has the clerk been for the 4 years, for these past 4 years? Right? A caller recently called and said she's what is it? No show Romeo. I've gotten calls that people don't want to tell me their name because they work there that are saying the same thing. Right? So where is the public speaking advocating? I understand that there's a lot that the clerk's office cannot go and just change arbitrarily, but there's a lot that can, and it's been 4 years and nothing has changed, right? Nothing at all. Lobbying. Well, again, if you're a Democrat and they own the state house, it should just be at least an active lobbying where we say, Mira, we'll be right back in just a second or two on the Next Step show on the WYSL stations 95.5 FM, 92.1 FM, and 1040 AM. Regresamos. No, please do over and over and over again. Play it on other people's show too. I'm just kidding. Welcome back to the Next Step Show, ladies and gentlemen. 346 3000. Listen, I would love to hear from you. We're talking advocacy at this moment because, again, you've got a mayor who's sitting there saying, hey, I'm going to retain this ultimate control under the eyes of gun violence state of emergency. But yet the only response is just more restrictions, all that. No, 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 nothing. I mean, I'm not seeing it, right? Otherwise, why do we have three teenagers, one dead, one critical injury, and two under 18, right? Why is it that we have a county clerk's individual that says, well, there's the county clerk's not customer service oriented. Just uh, yesterday, and see, that's political ideology. Because check it out. See, advocacy, like I said, it is uncomfortable, right? Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you've given this any thought whatsoever. I have, right? When I'm elected in November 5th, right? When I take over that office, you do understand I am going to be the right the guy that is going to be that wedge, right? That guy that's going to be able to see the fraud and guess what, report on it, and the guy that's going to prevent the other side, because when there's too much political ideology running anything, well, this is what we get, right? We get corruption. We get somebody who says things like the clip, the county clerk isn't for customer service, saying that we don't have the power, but yet turn around and try with these trickery words saying, oh, we're going to advocate. You know what? Because advocacy it requires to challenge the status quo, right? Where's the anger coming from her? Maybe not anger, okay? Maybe that's too harsh of a word for some people. Then fine. Where is the passion saying, no, Governor Hochul, I do not want my people in the city that are poor or even in the suburbs that are poor having to pay a bunch of money for things that they shouldn't be paying a bunch of money for. I don't want the 21-year-old homeowner who's getting ready to buy and needs money for his deposit to pay $95 to renew a driver's license. That's insane. That's not helping. We tout these, oh, we've got these mobile DMVs in the city. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 346-3000, correct me if I'm wrong, right? It's been many years that I've ridden on a bus, and maybe it changed. Although I've looked and I've paid attention, but it's my understanding that when you hop on a bus at a bus stop and you're going to another part of the city that because there's no direct routes, all the buses transfer either in downtown, there may be a spot in the Rondequoit, but regardless, there's a transfer point. How is that convenient? If they're transferring in downtown, shouldn't we be beefing up locations in downtown for people in the city to be able to leverage those and use those? I mean, I'm great that we have them at Ibero. That is phenomenal. But I'll tell you, when someone from the west side needs to go to that mobile DMV and they don't have a vehicle to get to the mobile DMV and they've got to ride the bus because they can't get a ride or want to ride their bike, man, that does not seem very convenient. But 346-3000, listen, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because, hey, what do I know? I'm just a conservative New Yorican, right? Hey, can we pay cut three, please? Why would the solution not be to address the issue that is creating the perception? Well, I mean, I know why. That's, again, political ideology. Let's look at the pistol permit issue, right? We talked about it yesterday. People can't even get an answer, right? Passing the buck, oh, that's a state issue. Well, no, it starts and ends with you. The very least thing that you can do is advocate for a better process that makes things simpler, right? Advocacy. Can we play clip four? Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna call the bull poopy card on that one, right? The bull poopy card on that one. Bob, if you have it available, can you do cut three one more time? You know, Proverbs 31, verses 8 and 9 says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up, judge fairly, and defend the rights of the poor and the needy. It doesn't say just the poor and the needy in the inner city. It doesn't say just the poor and the needy that are black or brown. It doesn't say just the poor and the needy that agree with your political ideology. It doesn't say just the poor and the needy that do not want a pistol permit. It says the poor and the needy. And guess what? Your oath of office, your own laws and regulations and policies says that you must be going out there. Your political ideology, who cares that you support Kamala Harris? Who cares who I support for president? I'll tell you, the only people that care are the people that you want to go political pander to. Well, Dan from Leroy, thank you for calling. Uh, Interesting. So, Dan, and only because next time call me a little earlier in the show because we're down to like the last minute or two, but allow me an opportunity to respond. So listen carefully, Dan. All right, and I know I've said this a few times. It's not an issue that I agree with those acts. Obviously, it's not an issue that I agree with war, even when it's unnecessary. What I am saying is this: yes, there comes a time, and yes, it is this it isn't biblical, right? Where war is absolutely necessary, right? And I'm not going to get into the politics of whether whether Israel or Palestine. I'm not going to get into that argument. I've said a million times, and yet you still keep bringing up the politics of the war. You still keep bringing up the politics of the situation. Tell me something, right? Read a little further in the Bible, right? Because sometimes war is the only act of kindness, especially in defense of your own nation. I'm just saying, Palestine's, their hands aren't clean. I'm not saying the Israels are, right? But Hamas, I should say, their hands aren't clean. Burning the American flag right here in Washington, I'm sorry, sir, that is unacceptable. And the crazy thing about it, right? That right there, when especially when they're chanting death to America on our soil, sir. Well, you know what? I do have a big issue with that. And no, I don't have sympathy for anybody who does anything like that. And check it out. That is an advocacy, right? That right there is political ideology, Senor Dan. Hey, I love it when you call, though, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, leadership, it hurts. And it really, when you're advocating for people, right, chances are you're going to be extremely lonely. Chances are people like Dan are going to call and say, hey, listen, what you believe, what you're saying is wrong, and that's okay, right? Why? Because that's how we all learn. That's how we all become, right, one nation under God, whatever your perception of God may be. Because, yeah, even if you're an atheist, guess what? You believe in something. And in order to say you don't believe in something, you have to understand that it actually does exist. However, you want to cut the pie, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, I enjoyed my lunchtime with you. I look forward to our discussion tomorrow. And remember what I always say: be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. And hey, tomorrow, even though we're going to be talking taxes, I want you to remember this: leadership is a beacon that guides me. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow. See you later.